the table of contents, it like wherever you click in the table of contents, it takes you to that page.
I
Hi,
did
guys.
not know that word feature yet.
How's everyone doing? Did everybody, I mean, you still have till Friday for those of you who want to turn it on Friday, but how's everyone doing with their binders? I see one thumb up. Nod, I see binders. Awesome. Proud of you guys. Does anyone still need the Friday deadline?
I'm gonna do a digital one, so I can turn it in on Friday. Is that okay? Okay.
Friday is fine.
I still plan to turn mine in person on Friday, if that's alright.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm actually gonna have dinner with Roxy from Restoration House. So, well, that's the plan. So I should be in the area. So I'll make it easy to pick it up.
Okay.
So, shoot me an email. I think you should be able to leave it at my mailbox.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the ad building, administrative building.
Yeah, I can definitely drop it off there because
Mhm.
I go
Live
to
here?
the mailroom every once in a while, so.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Can we pick a time for a drop off?
Yeah, what time are you having dinner? Or thank you.
I don't know for sure, but if it was there by 4, I feel like that's safe for
Okay.
me to
I'm
get
planning
it.
My plan already was to have it done by Thursday night, and
Well, that gives you Friday to fine tune a few things if you
yeah,
want
because
to.
I didn't know if you wanted it in the morning on Friday or not.
Yeah, 8 a.m.
So I'm actually ahead of schedule. I'm really trucking along.
Awesome. Love
Feeling
that
really
for you.
good about it. That's unusual for me.
All right. So this week we have binders to deliver, some of them. Articles to finish going over. I forget. Can you guys remind me who had not finished presenting their articles?
Yeah.
You have one. Kara, did you have some?
I think I did both of mine last time.
You did. Okay, so just the one. Okay.
And now you can actually open your binder and just read from it. I don't even need to stick a note.
Okay. All right. So this is our last class. So let's spend a couple minutes just kind of reviewing what was helpful. What are your guys' biggest takeaways? I like to know, personally, like what's been helpful. What felt the most either repetitive or unhelpful? Because I also like to know that too. Everyone has to share.
Oh, look how cute it is.
I think the books were definitely the thing that I learned the most from in this class, especially Dr. Perry's book. I don't
like
know
those
if you've
books.
looked at my personal reflection yet or not, but I basically don't stop talking about how much I love Bruce Perry. So,
Yeah, I feel similarly. He's just a man, but man, he wrote a great book. I thought it was super helpful the first time I read it. Yeah, I picked both of those books very intentionally. I basically scrapped every other book except for the Bible, off of the syllabus, and then picked those very intentionally. And I wondered how the play therapy book by Landreth would go over, but from your guys' notes, I'm actually pleasantly surprised how helpful that was. So, love that for you guys.
I would be curious as to what books were on the list before.
Very outdated books. Just like, published 2005. It's like, okay, it's been almost 20 years. We need some updated material. And even Bruce Perry's book is older, but he's, what do they call it?
he republished it.
He republished it. Yeah, it's been touched up, and I felt like the information in his book was more. It stayed the same. Like, it was just as helpful when he first published it as it was now. So, what else? What are your biggest takeaways? Has anybody changed life careers towards or away counseling children? Did I ruin it?
I've realized through this course that that my center of focus is trauma, and so I want to continue the rest of my education and choosing what jobs I take with a focus on trauma. And I also realized that I really want and need to get my master's in order to do the jobs that I want to do.
I agree.
Because at first I was like, I don't know what my future looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can just do a job that I like without getting that master's. But
I know there are Christian counselors out there who aren't planning on getting their master's, but you could only really be aided by being better educated.
yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to be harmed by doing
No.
more school.
Yes.
If anything, it's going to make you better.
You know, with people from this school who are believers, you know that you're going to throw away some stuff, right? Like, you take everything with a grain of salt. You interpret it through the Word of God. You test it with the Holy Spirit. And if it does not line up with Him, you just throw it away and move on. It's not, not a big deal. It's not quite what I mean. But you just take everything through the perspective of Jesus.
That's how I felt with, at least in my book, it was chapter 11, but mine is missing a chapter 12. But with chapter 11, it's just about the healing communities.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is great, but if you were a believer, it would be even better, because there were some points it was like, we know this is how it works, but we don't know why, because it's just weird how we evolved like that.
Oh.
We can't
evolved.
figure out why we evolved like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I can explain.
Well, let me tell you, we're designed. Yeah.
Early
It's
evolution
like-
didn't do you very good if you can't figure it out. That's
We should be on the short list. But, no. Kara, if you're going to go into trauma as a field and a specialty, do you know what advice I'm about to give you? I'm just curious. You said self-care. There it is.
Yeah. Part of my plan, Jared and I have talked about a lot of not necessarily expecting me to work full-time wherever I go, because every time I've worked full-time somewhere, I just, after a few months, I really suck at bringing good energy and a good attitude and getting there on time, and it just really does not do well for me. And I'm on some new medication that hopefully will maybe help with that, so maybe that'll change. But when it comes to trauma type stuff, like one of the jobs I'm considering taking potentially this summer even is with House of Hope, and I have been advised to do no more than 20 hours there because it just becomes too emotionally draining
Yes.
to be spending that time with those girls.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I would agree, looking at my own life, every, especially in the field job I've ever had, because I have picked some interesting ones. I worked with trafficking victims, I worked with residential teenagers. I've seen a few things that I maybe would have been okay not ever seeing. Nothing too crazy, not like knife wounds or anything, but things that were intense, people going through intense waves of trauma, recollection, and everything like that. So I've definitely been that person who got burnout and had to leave. This is the first time actually right now that I haven't burnt out. I think for whoever was here when I was at the department chapel in the fall, I talked about when I was getting burnout at my current job, and I left that job and I found one that was finally manageable stress wise. And so yeah, now I'm in the first position where I'm not getting burnout. So it's possible, but not all of them, especially if you're going to focus on trauma. People who do trauma work need to take very good care of themselves.
Yeah.
And that looks like saving space for yourself, for your family, for life outside of that work. You can't only be a person who works with XYZ.
Yeah.
You need other things to separate you. Okay. Anyone else tapped into a field that they're interested in?
And I feel like I'm talking about it a lot. I love kids. I love trauma work. I love counseling, and so I love the child-centered approach. And so I've already kind of been using it a little bit. We just interacting with kids. It's just fantastic,
Yes.
and it's funny how often, I find myself now being like, you know, we start our sessions off, our like services off, connecting with the kids, like, how are you feeling, or what are you doing, and, you know, they'll talk back, and I'll be like, and then I'll just repeat what they say, you know,
Yeah.
oh, you're feeling happy, and oh, you went to, you know, it's crazy how well that works, just talking, and it gets them to talk more and more and more, and I'm like, I just repeated what you said, I don't know why.
It makes them feel
this
heard.
Makes sense.
Yep.
But it
They're
doesn't.
like, oh, they know what I said. They're listening to me.
Yeah.
They're paying attention.
You went to grandma's house?
You know,
You know?
well, I mean, this is no slack against parents, but we do live in a world where a lot of parents spend a lot of time being distracted, working double jobs, being on their phone in their free time. So I think that kind of creates an environment for most kids where they're not given as much attention as I think might be more beneficial for them.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's the world we live in. I'm not trying to pick a fight with anybody. But if I could say, like, change one thing about your parenting style, it'd probably be like, give your kids your undivided attention when you can.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
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 That's like my number one takeaway, just how effective even just, you know, reflecting, you know, even in how you reflect, whether you with tonality and like if they're excited, you reflect excitement, you know, if they're sad, you're sad, you know, you reflect the sadness. And it's just super cool, and I love that. So I feel like that's kind of the direction I want to probably go anyway. So, which I was already kind of thinking about that a little bit, and then when I took it, so I was like, yeah, that's definitely.
I think I said this, but when I first started learning about play therapy tactics and learning how to reflect and parent kids, I thought it sounded weird. I mean, it does to everybody the first like half dozen or dozen times you try it. But I was listening to myself while I was in a therapy session this week with a 5-year-old and mom, because it's Kid's first session and I wanted Kid to feel comfortable, so I gave Kid the option of picking whether mom would come in with us. So Kid decided mom was going to come in, so I was there, and you're a little more, you know, self-aware when you've got an adult listening to you. So it was me going, oh yeah, the alligator is feeding the shark, and you know, just saying what I was seeing, saying what he was doing, being curious, but it was just kind of putting in words what was happening, because we were doing a sand tray and he was doing an epic battle with all these animals. But anyway, so it gets a lot more natural with practice, I think is where I was going with that. What other either skills or interventions have been either intriguing or you think will be helpful?
In that same vein, just that I wonder phrasing.
I wonder.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And, you know, I've learned about play therapy in 15? I think I decided 15 was my introduction, and I got my certification in 18. And yet, I'm like, man, I used the I wonder and he didn't answer, you know? Like I'm still working through that. But I wonder allows them to ignore you if they want to. That's part of the freedom, the self-direction that comes with therapy, even with kids.
Yeah.
One of my favorite tidbits, this is one of those quick things that I love to drop with parents or teachers or whoever is working with kids, therapists. Most kid therapists know this. But if you can get below the eye line of a child, you are registered as not threatening.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're trying to talk to them, or you're a new person, or you are trying to let them know that you're safe, I will crouch down, I will get down. If they're sitting in a chair, I'll get down on my knee kind of in front of them. I won't get too close, but I will make myself not threatening so that they can be relaxed in their own nervous system.
I just need other people to get eye level with
Below your eye line side? I'll remember that.
You're okay.
I had to sit at the children's table at the meeting today. It was just so
All right, what else are your big takeaways from the class? How'd the rest of your genogram go? That's fair. The genogram is not something that I tell people to do in therapy because it's fun. I mean, you get the oddball who's like, wow, this is amazing. I've never...
So much data.
So much data, yeah. Wow.
It was interesting.
A family for a whole new life.
It was interesting,
Mm-hmm.
but it was very frustrating too.
Did anyone see any patterns in their family they had not noticed before? Or maybe noticed, but you were like, wow, it's there. Which is a very technical way of saying that you noticed it extra special.
Well, this is referring back to when I originally made the genogram, but I realized that like my family is pretty much cut off from my dad's side.
Did you notice that because you didn't know who was on your dad's side?
So, just like his dad passed away when he was a teenager, and then when that happens, he basically lost contact with like that whole side.
Okay.
Like, so I should clarify, not my dad's side of the family, my dad's side of the family.
Okay.
Yeah. I should
So like your
clarify.
dad's sister or brother you would know, but not your dad's aunt and uncles.
Right.
Yeah. Karen, what about you?
With the thing that we created, or just anything?
Either the genogram or anything that was helpful or
I think
takeaways.
When I came into the class, I was really curious about the sand tray, and I kind of didn't like the idea of it because I didn't think it would help. But after doing it, I was like, oh. So I really liked that after being able to participate.
Also, surprise, surprise, we're gonna do one more sand tray tonight. I find it's a good like wrap up / processing tool, and I always like to do some kind of processing thing at the end of something. So at the end of a group cycle or at the end of a class is a good time to stop and process. What was not interesting to you? It's okay to provide, that side of the feedback.
When reading about the chapter where Landreth was like, here are statistics, I was like, can you just like give a little bit more vague statistics? Like 40% was better or whatever. Like just give me basic
It
percentage
was
levels.
too detailed,
Yes.
too in depth.
It made me like, it made my eyes just like gloss over. I was like, I can't pay attention to this. I don't care. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
You kind of have already spent your entire book proving to me that it works. I don't understand why this chapter is at the end of the book, or towards the end of the book.
I guess, if it hadn't been class material, you could have just said, this chapter wasn't written for me and moved on past it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I skimmed it until I found like something I was like, oh wait, this is actually
There we go.
interesting.
Information.
And then, but the numbers, I was like, what is the result? Just tell me that.
Yep. Bottom line.
Yeah.
I liked most of the activities. I like personally, I don't like the house and tree and water one like at all.
That's fine.
Like I'm sure some people like it, but to me it's just like it's weird.
I didn't really get into this, but like that was a very specific art activity, and there are more general ones like drawing a family, your family, and then just kind of noticing what kind of details they add. Like that is like more specific to it works with everybody kind of thing. So for instance, maybe mom is bigger than dad, maybe dad's way off in the corner, maybe little sister is, way off on the other side of mom and all the kids are on this side. Why is little sister separated? Things like that. Maybe everyone gets detail except for this one person in the family. So there are more general art
Exactly.
activities that work
No, I
with more people.
I liked all of them except for that one. So I'm not being mean or
you're
anything. It's just like I know there
That
are
one's
different ones.
it's
There are people.
hit or miss. I enjoyed it because I got something out of it, but I also know it's not necessarily going to work with every client or every, classmate.
When I was talking to Jared about that activity, At some point, I did make him do it, and then afterwards, he like suddenly stopped, and it dawned on him because he went to like 1 or 2 play sessions when he was a kid.
Okay.
And
Did he do it already?
He goes,
See where he's
I
going
think
with
I
this."
did this when I was a kid, and I just didn't know what it was for. So like, you know, the therapist never was like, I don't even know if the therapist really asked him any questions about it. Honestly, some of the things I heard about from that play therapist, I'm like, it was like maybe they weren't using Landris techniques in the way that they were.
Yeah.
It didn't sound entirely child focused.
So there are lots of therapists out there who are taking kids, but it's not their specialty.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't take any extra classes or specific classes for that. So they're just kind of like, hey, what do you do with a kid? Which
And like he
isn't my
did,
favorite.
it sounded like he did do some play therapy stuff, but it didn't seem like he was taking into consideration, like the biggest reason why Jared was there was because he had ADHD, and so they were hoping that it would help with that. But the stuff that he was focusing on, yeah,
Yeah.
it just seemed weird. But anyway.
Does he still have ADHD? Okay. I just wonder because I feel like sometimes we give kids labels like that,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's just they're kids, and kids weren't really made to sit at a desk for 8 hours. So yeah, they're gonna be squirrely at some point in the day.
If you spent a day with us, you would see, you'd be like, yeah, makes sense.
Makes sense. That tracks. Okay. All right. Okay. Remind me one more time. You're submitting by Friday digitally. You're submitting now. You're good. Okay. And then you're submitting today. Yes. Okay. And then you're submitting Friday.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Then we are clear. All right. Just want to make sure. Just one Friday. Okay. 2 Friday, but 1 digitally, 1 Friday. Okay. Just kidding. Okay. And then for online students, I'll make sure that the due date says that. But I think actually, for in person, I do need it by specific time. I think if you're submitting digitally, it should be fine to submit just by midnight. I'm not as worried about the time frame, so you can have the evening if you need it. But anyway, let's go ahead and do that last article, and then we can move on to our next thing. This bench is a little bit creak.
Oh no.
These tabs work so well. So, my article that I went over, its title is A Multi-Site Randomized Control Trial for Child with Abuse-Related PTSD Symptoms. So, basically, the study's objective was to examine different children with trauma who had were having PTSD symptoms from it, and it had 229 children that were 8 to 14 years old, and they were doing child-centered therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, and they were comparing the two. And so they did a certain amount of kids, they halved it, and they did a certain amount of kids for that therapy, and then the other, and they had their parents come along, and the parents were a part of some of the sessions with them. And at the end of the therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy is the one that had the overall success rate compared to the child-centered therapy. So even the parents were doing better after the sessions. So I thought that was interesting, but they didn't include kids with psychotic disorders or substance disorders or kids that were not fluent in English. So it was kind of more specific. Yeah. But that's pretty much all. It was kind of
How many participants again?
229.
But at the end, they ended up having just 149 that finished completely all the way through.
It makes sense to me that CBT would be the winner in that scenario. Child-centered therapy, I think it's good and it's helpful, but it's kind of like you're using that with other things. It's not necessarily like the main thing that's going on in a therapy session.
You say that child-centered therapy is like the approach, and then CBT is the technique. Basically, like you're using CBT therapy.
Yeah, I don't know
with
that
the approach of having it be child-centered therapy.
I don't know that I would have picked those two to compare. It's more like if you compared EMDR and CBT.
Yeah,
that would
that
be
make
a
sense.
better
Yeah.
comparison. So, interesting choice, you guys. So, how many references were they able to use?
When I looked at the bottom, was quite a few. So, but
And was it in the U.S.?
I don't remember. I'm sorry, I did it last week.
That's fine.
I think it was that.
What was your biggest takeaway?
Maybe that the parents also got something from the sessions. I thought that was the most interesting thing about it. That they came in for like a couple of them. I don't remember the specific amount. I think I wrote it in here somewhere. They were there for a little bit, but I thought it was interesting that the parents also were doing good after the CBT. So. And that the parents after the other therapy were also not doing as good as the kids were. So it was like interesting the difference between the two.
Did they say the age range?
Yeah, 8 through 14-year-olds.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
so it's kind of an older group of kids. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I don't know that CBT is like going to be the most effective with 4-year-olds, so that kind of makes sense also.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Here, change this behavior, but you don't really know what I'm saying.
Yeah. We're like,
weird. Snack?
okay, so we're going to
Can't
do.
pronounce cognitive.
See.
Behavior.
We'll do the sand tray a little later. Yes. I'm squirreling a little bit tonight. I can't help that. My brain has been very busy today. Okay, so one thing that I thought would be fun to talk about tonight, especially since you've finished books and you're almost done with the class, would just be a little bit about the brain. I'm curious how much you guys feel like you already know. All right, Maddie, you want to give us a summary?
Well, what part about the brain?
What do you want
to
about the stress response and the response to trauma? That's kind of where I'm going.
Do you want me to go like full nerd mode?
Yes, I do, actually. I'm curious. Let's see.
Here we go. Okay, this is your brain. Your brain says hi. Okay. So
Maddie's doing this.
brain says hi. Right here, this is your brain stem. This is the part of your brain that controls breathing and your heart rate and
All your-
digestive system, all your essential functionings here. Then right here, this is similar subcortical structures, your occipital lobe, things like that. That's your eyeballs. And then right here, this is your limbic system. And your limbic system is like the fire alarm in your house. And what it does is it's meant to protect you and to figure out how your emotions respond to situations. It controls emotional responses, sex drive, all that kind of stuff. Then this is your frontal cortex. And then it controls all of your executive functioning, all of your learning functionality, all that kind of stuff. When you experience stress or you have some sort of stimuli that triggers your limbic system to either go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, you flip your lid.
Yep.
And so your frontal cortex stops functioning the way that it needs to. Then you move down and start to work out of your limbic system. In order to get back to your frontal cortex and your executive functioning, you need to regulate whatever kind of dysregulation is happening inside your limbic system, whether that be you get downregulated, so you go into depression, upset mode, dissociation, or you go hyperregulated, so that's upregulated, and you go into anxiety, high heart rate, runaway, flight, or fight. That's also kind of up there. And so you have to either, depending on what your response is, whether it's to kind of freeze, that's that downregulated, or to fight, that's the upregulated, you have to figure out, kind of do the opposite to get yourself back online and start to be able to use your executive functioning back the way that it needs to. And there's a ton of ways and like reasons that you might get stuck in your limbic system, PTSD, CPTSD, a bunch of different mental diagnoses that might cause you to be permanently downregulated or permanently upregulated, and you need medications to help you come back to that state of regulation. But that's like my summary.
Everyone clap for Maddie.
That's like
That was pretty good.
quick nerd mode.
That was pretty right on. I can tell that you've been studying.
Yes.
All right, so I love that. Okay, so I've also heard with the this part of the demonstration, I've also heard it described, the flipping the lid part is kind of like when you're here, it's like you're hanging on a cliff. And at this point, when your lid is flipped or you've fallen off the cliff, there's no undoing that. You're not just going to be able to go like this.
Yeah.
Like you've fallen off the cliff. It's done. So then it's going to take time to, once you're fallen off the cliff, to then pick yourself back up and re-regulate your emotions and put the lid back. So here's another visual. This one I learned a long time ago and I enjoy it. So same concept. We're talking about fight or flight, or when you're going through high stress or you've been through trauma and then you go through stress, then this is one way to look at it. Okay, so I'm not an artist, okay? This is my best attempt to draw a car, okay?
It's cute.
It's cute. Okay, so here we have the driver's seat, right, with the little steering wheel. We have the back seat where you can sit and chill back here. We'll put another seat here. Or we have the trunk. Okay, so this is a great way to explain it for kids who are may or may not get all the stuff you're talking to them about the brain. When you are in the driver's seat right here, you are in your prefrontal cortex where you're making decisions, where you're doing all those logic, where you can have a conversation about hard things and actually process the information. If you are here, you're not in the prefrontal cortex, you're back here in this part of your brain. And at that point, you're kind of in control, but it's kind of like reaching forward to grab the steering wheel from the back seat. You're not really in control. You're mostly in your emotions. You're not going to be thinking as logically. You're not going to be able to have hard discussions easily. And if you are in the trunk, you are gagged, you are tied up, you are not able to have hard discussions. If they say stop yelling, stop rolling on the floor, none of that means a thing to you right now. So if you ever see a kid having a tantrum or a kid having a meltdown, they're back here. They're not going to hear anything you're saying right then until you open up the trunk, help them regulate, and kind of walk them through the regulation process until they're calm again and they can get back in the driver's seat of their car. So here's a picture. I love this picture. I've used it many times. It works for parents too, especially when parents don't understand their kids or aren't able to appreciate what's going on in the brain of their children. Even teenagers. I had a family that I worked with for a year in residential, and kiddo was 17, and her the space between her front seat and her back seat was like half an inch. It took just getting on the phone call with her parents to do family therapy for her to move from here to here. And her parents had very little appreciation for that fact. And this is aside from the point, probably did not appreciate the part that they had played in creating that short fuse from here to here. So this was one of the tools that I used to help them understand what was going on in their kid's brain so that they could help be the blueprint, even at age 17, for this kid to learn how to regulate her own emotions. Can't ruin it. Okay. Okay. We're gonna do a couple little activities tonight. I'm still deciding what order I want to do things. We're gonna do sand tray next. Yes. And to do our sand tray, because I know last time the online students didn't really have the best view. They had no idea what we were doing or what was going on. So we're gonna move everything up to these two tables, so at least they have a shot
We can
at.
also scoot those two tables back.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm gonna move this. Hopefully it doesn't break.
You're like, oh.
Okay. Guess what? You guys are all gonna have to come up here.
He did a dive.
I'm waiting to get a napkin.
When they're done.
You know what? I actually have a napkin.
Are you laughing at the noodle?
No, I'm laughing at what
Oh. Maybe you should be in middle school ministry.
You guys are funny.
That's where I belong.
Okay. We'll call that close enough. Okay. So we're gonna come up here to the sand first.
I think you can infer. Oh. Oh yeah, we're playing this.
We're gonna play the sand because part of the beginning of a sand tray session is literally just putting your hands in the sand. Unless you have really intense sensory issues, in which case you're excused. If it's not in your best interest, we don't force it.
Yeah, I remember the last time you were like,
There's a lot of things that I can't handle, and sand is one of the things that does bother me, strangely enough.
So do you not like dirt either?
Oh, I'm fine with it. It's just sand.
Okay. Because I know you grew up in Texas, so there's a lot of dirt there. I don't know what part of Texas you're from.
Okay. Now, I've done a lot of sand trays, so someone remind me real quick what we did last time because I don't want to overlap too much.
We did
One for yourself.
ourselves and the problem that we're facing, and a person and how they've helped us face that problem. We did our individual families as we grew up, like our immediate families,
yeah.
and then our families as they are now.
Okay, so we're not going to overlap. We'll be good. Because that one was more about you guys. This one is going to be more about, I said it right, I'm sorry. This one is going to be more about processing as a group, your class, time together, and moving forward. So, let's start with everybody getting one for themselves and choosing like your own little corner.
Choose yourselves. Choose yourselves.
I'm gonna go with consistency unless someone else feels like they want Pam from the office.
I don't even remember who I was last time. Wait.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mr. Pam.
Are you okay? Are you mad at yourself a little bit?
Well, that's another conversation for another day.
Oh, I think I was a turtle.
Is that really Pam?
I kind of looks like Pam. I mean,
Sure,
doesn't
it does, but
Looks like
did I
Pam.
think about it? Definitely not.
I think it looks like Pam.
We'll call it Pam.
Are you gonna do one too? You should do it too.
I guess I could,
Since there's 6 of us.
but I'm not going to put that way.
Oh, well, then it's fine. I'll switch.
These are sitting
Yeah, watch
together,
it.
and I was like, why is he holding a baby doll?
Oh. That would be confusing.
I don't know if I want to do something that look at me instead of looking at everyone else.
This this is what I'm choosing for
There was
myself.
this
Just kidding.
awful
There's no
book
love.
I
Oh, I
read
know.
today.
Subtly savage.
And it was that there were gay penguins. And I'm like, I
Yes.
did not, this is so stupid. Basically, it was at a zoo where they didn't have like a male and a female. They had like 2 males or 2 females or whatever. And oh, look, what do you know? These 2 female penguins adopted this baby penguin. And I'm like, that does not mean they're lesbian.
There's a lot of
Or-
different zoos that
It's a
are
thing.
like, we
It's a
have gay
thing.
penguins.
I see it.
Yeah.
Just means they're animals.
Okay. I guess we'll just be a turtle.
Just a turtle.
Nothing's better than a turtle. I wanted something better than a turtle, but I guess a turtle is who I am inside. I like him because he kind of looks dumb.
Look how stupid he looks. He's cute. Okay, Kara.
He just looks like a goofball, you know?
There's no wrong answers. What can I say? It's your turtle. Okay, so I know we did this piece last time, but we're going to do it again, and we're going to take a different direction from there. Again, not exactly, it doesn't have to be a problem, but maybe something you're working on or something you're worried about might be a better way to put it.
Think I have something we're worried about?
Yes. Someone hand me the snake so I don't have to get out again.
Snake. Which snake?
Any snake. Dark snake.
She just knows.
I know what I have.
That's weird. I put it together.
A book hiding in here somewhere.
I wish I did.
Yeah,
I haven't found a good book. You know, it can't be like a paper. It has to be a little
Yeah.
solid plastic object.
Yeah. I bet Hobby Lobby has little
That's what
books
I
that are meant to be.
Maybe not what you think.
I know it's not what I think. But there's a very wonky interpretation that I won't be taking.
There's a couple in here. This one's
I just
beautiful.
touched it and it was gross.
I'm
Maybe
not
change
the
it.
only one. You get to decide.
I
the
will
answer.
explain it
You
and it will make so
explain.
much sense.
You
And it's
will
not-
explain.
My marriage is great.
We know it's gonna be different than what it looks.
I was watching TV with my client today, and we're watching NCIS Los Angeles.
I thought you were gonna throw it.
And one of the guys
Where'd
brought
you get this in
a
here?
rattlesnake
Yeah, the
in
little
a
object one thing.
terrarium into their office. I'm like,
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by his toe. I don't know, you just let it go. I don't know you.
my mama said that.
And then we'll go clockwise.
Okay, I'm sharing.
Yes.
So, okay.
So share about both if you're with your one.
Oh, a napkin. Thank you.
Why you chose one and why you chose the second.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I chose a puppy, because I couldn't find the cat, and I like dogs. So, I don't know, just,
That
I
can
don't know,
be that can be
pretend
the
it's
reason.
a cat.
Yep.
Pretend it's a cat.
There is a cat. I will help you find it if you want it.
It's okay. Pretend it's a cat, very solo cat, doing its own thing, like cat, I don't know. And then this represents, well, time, so just, I guess, fear of, like, not really, I guess, getting where I want in life in the time,
Much preferred the cat.
in the time that, like, I don't know.
Carrie, you're up.
Oh.
We're going clockwise. Oh, thank you for
yeah,
giving
that's
them
a
the
good
view.
So I chose a bed and a little piece of money because. Are you living in Philly right now? Did you see the email?
Don't know.
I might be breaking some bad news to you right now. Then.
Okay, please do.
They're closing Philly. We have to be out by June 30th.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that
Thank
fun?
you.
So that's in your email
I mean,
from Jeff.
okay.
Not surprising. So we have to be out by June 30th, and Jared and I were already looking for a house, and we kind of decided earlier this week that that maybe we would like kind of make our plan a little bit longer so that we could save up more money and get a better house, and also maybe wait for the market to kind of get a little bit better. But still like pursuing looking for a house. And then also on Sunday, our car decided it didn't want to move anymore. And so now we're having to like fix that. And that is gonna probably potentially put us up behind quite a bit financially as far as getting a house. And then now, and for that, I was like, it's okay, we'll just stay in Philly for a little longer, and it's okay. And now we have to be out by June 30th. So it's just, it also puts a lot more pressure on, even if we we're fine, more fines financially, the pressure of like, you have to be out by this date is a lot. So, yeah, I feel like overall I'm handling it very well, but there's just a lot of decisions that need to be made relatively quickly. And I also really feel like it's like Satan doing a thing because, yeah, Jared and I just had a really bad week. So.
Thank you for sharing. I have Pooh Bear for myself. I'm just gonna hold it for everybody. I'm actually really proud of this. All the ones that look like this, I got at the play therapy conference. So. Okay, it's fine. I'm not nerdy.
Yes, you are.
It kind of fits really well right now. I'm not gonna lie, just because I feel like I have been hardcore introverting it recently. I literally spent since Friday, I've probably spent about 5 hours of my time winding bobbins.
Ooh.
Yeah, like for embroidery thread.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like how many of us
Okay.
were like, oh, that's what that is.
It's a sonic
Are you
therapist.
spinning? Are you weaving? Okay.
So, literally like
Like
that. Yeah. Which, in retrospect, I could have probably bought a kit that was already done. But it just kind of feels appropriate because it's usually like my evening activity where I'm coming down from whatever went on in my day. And it was also a weekend, so. So it just feels kind of appropriate that it's like kind of looks like a nighttime. Kind of like, and then I feel like an old lady also. So it just fits. And
Do you
I'm
have a cap?
kind of a squishy.
Like
Cap. I don't
Do
have
you
a
put on your
cap.
little sleep cap?
No, I usually do like a scrunchie. But
Me too.
anyway, so that's why I chose that one. It just kind of fit my mood for today. And then I chose the snake because of a illness in one of my family members' life. My brother has a brain tumor, and he has it for a long time, so it's not like a shock. Actually, I was here when I found out. I was a student here, so it's been a long time. But it's, that unseen force, evil, feels evil, like cancer feels evil. So the snake felt appropriate for my concern, or the thing that worries me. So that's why I chose my names.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I chose Pam from The Office. I don't know if it actually is Pam, but it looks like Pam. The girl wearing a cardigan and holding a book. It's just me. I don't know what else to say about that. It's just, that's me to the T. I wear cardigans and hold books. And then for my issue, I actually picked the palm trees because I think that's what I would like for my space to be. And self-care is just like anytime anyone says the word self-care, I'm like cringing because I'm like, I know I'm not doing a good job at that at all. Like, this has been one of the most stressful weeks of my entire, since I started working where I work. And eating healthy, even drinking water. Like Kara grabbed her water bottle. I was like, oh my goodness, I haven't drank water once today. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all the things about self-care, and I just think it's just not making me healthy and able to care in the way that I do for the people that I have to care for, and, you know, and including myself. So
your stressor is the absence of self-care,
yeah,
including your physical health.
Yep.
Yeah. We've all been there.
Yeah, my washing machine is broken, my dishwasher's broken, my sink is broken. I just had to have my furnace fixed too, and work is exploding. So the absence of self-care in the middle of all the stress, like the stress I feel like happens, and it's happened for a while, but it's just the fact that I don't have self-care makes it worse. Thank you.
So I picked the elephant again as me just because it's my favorite animal. And then I got the casket because a lot of my grandparents, or all of my grandparents, are kind of doing bad health-wise, and it's been really stressful the whole year. And I'm kind of worried about them, and also my dog. So. So I'm kind of stressed about that, and it's kind of really
I picked a little wooden faceless person shape because I've been feeling kind of numb and faceless recently. So, and the handcuffs because there's a lot of stuff in my life just chaining me down right now. So I need to break some chains.
Okay, now this is my favorite part. You've all heard each other's stories and what they chose their objects for, so now we're all going to pick one thing to give each of our friends.
You mean like for our?
Like, I'm going to pick 5 items for everyone else, and you're going to pick 5 items for everyone else. Yes. Based on what they've shared or what you know in their life would be helpful, you're going to try to pick something to represent what you would like to give them to help them or support them or encourage them.
So 5 items for each person I'm giving.
1 item per
Oh,
person.
okay.
We're not picking 25 items. We're picking 5 items. 1 item per other person. You don't have to do one for yourself. You're going to get 5 items from other people.
Okay. Sounds good. Go.
Okay. You already know what you're doing.
Nope. Not this time.
Is this to encourage them, kind of?
To encourage, support, something you'd like to give them to show care. This is a fair question.
It's okay.
So
It
we're
was like
5.
a fear of like, I guess time passing without like being where I want to be in life.
Okay. Stop.
That was based on our
Not
the other day.
another
Conversation the other day.
No, I know. But I do think it's funny that that's the second. This is the second week that kind of topic has kind of come up in this class regarding me.
Point.
No, but like that came up also earlier with another thing because of the objects that I chose. So people read into them before I explained.
Emily, I let you out. For what I think particularly. Oh, you know what? This will work.
Why am I feeling like I have to hide what I'm getting?
I know, I'm like,
like, don't let anybody know. I'm like, what is this?
I'm so glad you all got to hear my gremlin voice.
That was nice.
That's great.
That was nice.
Yeah. I think I have heard you.
I'm like, why do I like randomly want to pick the weirdest stuff? Like, here, comfort.
Is that what you're calling me?
One of the best movies in the world.
That was so good. This is hard.
This is gonna be hard for my brain. Wow, I'm seeing a theme.
Yeah, there are bridges. Here's a bridge.
I love that you were so shocked by that.
I'm intrigued.
Kara, I know I had a reason why I picked one of these for you, but can you remind me one more time what your name was? The 5 times memory is the hardest part of this part.
My grandparents.
Okay, I'm gonna.
That was really funny that we both picked compasses. I like the compass. That's right, I just have
Of course, you have more than one item that's yellow.
I have to. It's a law.
I don't think we're actually like old enough to remember him, but like our parents. Did you listen to any Don Francisco music when you were a kid?
Mm-mm.
Oh my goodness, it's so good. I think it was like late 80s, early 90s is when he was singing. But he put Bible stories to music, so it wasn't actually exactly the words. So good. I was listening to it this week, and it was like every song was like just what I needed. He's got this great song about Jehoshaphat. You should look it up sometime. It's really good.
I like how yours has a theme of light.
Trying to remember who this was for.
Who have you not done?
I think I've done everyone. But I know I picked this one for someone. This is
Self-care,
Yep.
death,
Yep.
being shaken down, faceless and numb,
Yep.
not being able to get what she needs before time runs out or be where she needs to be. Time, money, and decisions.
It's for you. I'll just stand here. I don't need to stand next to mine.
Okay. All right. So I am not like above being vague or forgetful of my answers because I know I had clear ideas as you guys were talking about it, but you just didn't fucking. Even without, I'm still okay. So what I do remember is that Maddie, I got the house for you because I hope in your future you're able to feel safe, secure, that everything is well. Because everyone deserves to have a safe space where they feel like they can retreat to their sanctuary. So I hope that for you. I hope that everything is well in your home soon, everything is fixed, and that you have rest, a place where you can go and be in your sanctuary. So it kind of works for both sides of that.
Yeah,
like the
totally.
the issues
Uh-huh.
and like the rest, the self-care, the sanctuary that I want for you.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's okay if you have seasons where life is hard. That's part of being an adult, unfortunately.
That's true.
Picked the tree for you, Kara. Just the hope of salvation and the beauty and being united with Jesus. Just a reminder that just like trees, right? Like they show the rings and they show life. we have reminders of people who influenced us and impacted us. Emily, I picked the light switch for you, which yes, she was so excited about that. A light switch. I love it. I wanted to remind you of the hope you have in Jesus, and that it doesn't matter how hard a time is, there is always a light, at the end of the tunnel. Like, this is whatever you're going through, it's temporary. It's not so hard or dark or whatever that Jesus can't be in there with you. I picked the stone for you, and let me see if I can phrase this correctly, because I had it perfectly worded the first time I thought of it, and now it's been 5 minutes. Because of what you were sharing, I felt like a stone would represent the security we have in Jesus, the firm foundation, right? Building the house upon the rock, we can trust Jesus with our future. There is no, when we are submitted to Him and letting Him guide us and direct us, we don't have to be afraid about whether we're late. We don't have to be afraid about whether we're going to miss the boat. Just be submitted to Him, keep your eyes on Him, and don't worry about the rest, because His plan almost always does not look like our plan. So if you trust your life into His hands and trust His plan, I promise that you will find joy in the things that He has in store for you. So don't worry about whether, don't worry about the timeline. That's a human thing. God is outside of time. So that's my, and I know that you were judging the egg.
I wasn't judging it. I was just like, oh, what's that?
The egg represents what's in store for you next. It's unseen. It's a surprise. But I think that even though leaving Philly is scary, you never know what's around the corner, what wonderful thing is in store for you, what part of God's plan He has still coming for you. So just a reminder, just because it's unseen doesn't mean it's not gold on the inside.
It's a quail.
Quail? So little quail. Oh. I also heard quail, and I was like,
I don't know about that.
I don't know. I mean, very literal.
Okay. Next person.
Is it me? Yeah. We're going on.
I'm
You're right here.
just gonna.
We'll just go to Kara because she's next to me. Clockwise. Always clockwise.
So I picked a tree for you because trees are strong and they grow slowly, but also kind of in a fast way. And I guess I kind of just picked it so that your self-care will grow like a tree, and it may take a while, but it will be strong someday. I picked the sun for you because it seems like it's kind of dark, and I just want to shine on the situation. And then I picked the branch for you. You talked about how you had like the boundary branch and everything. Maybe just I picked it so you could come out and like break free from that and your worry about time and everything. And then I picked the flower for you. Hopefully like a flower will bloom in your past situations and that at some point you'll see something like growth in different areas. And then I picked the seashell for you because I can't exactly like help the situation, so all I can give you is prayer. And seashells remind me of prayer.
I understand. Yeah, I actually totally had that same connection in my head.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yes, so Mariah, I picked the ambulance for you because just praying for healing for your whole family. It can be like physical and spiritual healing. You don't usually use an ambulance as a counselor. I think we need counseling ambulances.
Rushing into therapy.
Quite helpful.
You're in counseling
helpful
and you
for
get into the
depressed
ambulance. We have other things we have to do.
I picked the lighthouse for you Because lighthouses are a place of safety, but also warning you when there's rocks ahead. So praying for warning and for a place of safety.
Weren't you the one who was like, I don't want the lighthouse to get it?
Yeah, no, I
That's
thought that was
really
funny
funny.
because I literally picked that for that reason. Well, the opposite of that reason, and then you brought it back.
She redeemed it.
Oh.
I knew that would get you.
I'm gonna get off the camera.
I picked a rainbow for you because rainbows are a symbol of hope. So, that God keeps his promises. So, I was looking. I didn't pick anything for myself. Okay, next. I picked the compass for you to give you a sense of direction. And for you, I picked a life-saving ring because it kind of sounds like everything's hitting you at once. So, it's some rescue.
Appreciate that.
Okay. So I picked the purple flower for you. Just I gotta remember where my thoughts were.
Same thing.
I just think that flowers are like a picture of beauty, and like I feel like right now like it's a dark time, and like but there's still beauty like in things. And yeah, and then I picked the recycling bin because just like right now you're kind of in a state of like just I guess things are a little bit cluttered and like up here, so like just I guess like idea of like decluttering all that. Eventually we get out of this phase. And then I picked the panda just as a symbol of comfort and like just support people in your life. And I picked the lighthouse for you, which you would be a cone being light, just to kind of shed light on your situation and kind of like hope in the darkness. And then I picked a seashell for you just because kind of like, I guess, beach theme, just like a sense of calmness.
Okay, so Kara, I picked some more coins for you because I guess I a little bit misunderstood the assignment because I picked it based on how I thought of everyone. And I realized that like I know that you're struggling with a lot of stuff and financial situation and stuff like that, but your personality, your presence is really valuable. And like it's beautiful.
She was saying
and
how much I was in the
it's beautiful and priceless, and so like those are coins to represent money, but really like you're way more valuable than even just the situation that you're in. And like your presence is a delight to people. So and you're just fun to be around. So that works.
You're doing great.
I love it. I picked a puffin for you. That's a little puffin because puffins are fun. They're cute, they're small, they're relatable, and so like I just feel like that encompasses kind of your passion for play therapy, and you're like just your relatableness. You know, I don't think anyone would look at a puffin and go, I can't handle it. You know, it's just like they're adorable and sweet and amazing and beautiful creatures, and so like that's kind of how I feel about you. You know, like it's pleasant coming to your class. I look forward to it, and you just seem like you're super relatable to your class, your students,
Very
but also
human.
your your kiddos, you know.
Yeah.
So
I think that's why the Lord put me in play therapy.
I feel
You have to be very goofy to work with children.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so beautiful. So
Maybe it just helps.
totally. And then for you, I picked a flower because I was doing a slow-mo of a flower blooming today, and when I saw a flower, it was like, ooh, I feel like that's Kara.
because there's so much beauty that comes out of it. And it starts out like it seems like it's small, like it's quiet or shy or whatever, and then when it opens up, it's just there's so much beauty to it and so much fragrance and just delight to be had from the flower. And so I just, and it just brings, you know, a smile to your face and beauty. And so I love it. Even though you're shy, you're kind of quiet, there's so much beauty to be had when people get to know you. Emily, I chose the cupcake for you because what I had been hearing you say just throughout the last couple of weeks has been just there's a lot of darkness, you know, you feel like you're faceless and you're numb, and almost as if there's not character to you. But I know every time you come in here, you're laughing, you're goofy, you have something fun to say, you have something caring to say, whether it be about your clients or, you know, the kiddos that you babysit, or even your family, or your admiration for your mom, like all those things, you know. They're just bright and happy and cheerful, and like, not that you have to be bright and happy and cheerful, but I want you to also recognize that there's a lot more to you that we all see, and you don't have to be weighed down by that, because it's not you. You know, it's your circumstances, but it's not you. Your identity is different than that. So I want to encourage you with that. Miss Eliana,
I'd look for my dear.
I chose a butterfly for you because butterflies start out as caterpillars and they grow a chrysalis and then they burst out of the chrysalis and they're a beautiful butterfly and they fly away and are free. And I can see you starting to form your chrysalis and starting to like break out of it. And I have full confidence that the Lord will grow you into just a beautiful, strong woman of God that has overcome whatever that barrier is that's going on you. And I love you. Because you're amazing. That's all.
Okay, so. Wow, that's hard. Shoot. Okay, well, I'm gonna come back to you because for some reason I can't remember yours and I feel like it's happening a lot to you. I chose a compass for you for pretty much the same reasons. So just to give you direction and grounding and footing and feel like even if maybe you're scared that you may not get to where you want to be, say in 5 years or whatever, that you're still taking control of your life and you're still taking control of your here and now and doing what you can to be who you want to be now. And also like seconding what you said of like it's all in God's timing and it's gonna be okay. I chose a rock for you and I specifically put it on your chains. I was thinking about how we talk about Christ breaking our chains and just his redemption in that, and so I felt like the rock was fitting to break your chains and also to stand on his foundation. So yeah. Carol, I gave you a cross for similar reasons as other people, and that's just to have peace in God's plan, his timing, his redemption, his salvation, and just to know that there's hope beyond this life, but there's hope even in death. So that would be an encouragement to you. I gave you the little that thing,
Baby carriage.
so because I hope you get some self-care, and I hope you're able to baby yourself a little bit
Aw.
and just kind of have a
That's
time where
cute.
you're all cozy and happy and get to do what you want to do that makes you happy. So
I was wondering if it was just because I heckled you about something.
no, no, that's funny. Actually, Jared and I, whenever we're like not doing super great and we just feel like we're being stupid, but we feel like we need extra attention from the other person, we go, "Can I be baby right now?" And then the other person usually says yes, and then we just treat the other person essentially like a baby. Not really, but like you're just like, "You're okay," and you know, give them more
Warm and
attention.
nurturing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, give them our full undivided attention. So I hope that you're able to at least do that for yourself. So,
Sweet.
I know I picked the show for you.
I do not
Someone else.
remember.
Someone else
Oh.
gave the shell.
I did the shell.
What did I give you?
Probably the flower.
I gave the
I
flower.
don't
I don't
think
think
you
you
put
gave
anything in
anything.
Travis. No, I'm fine.
So I hate you. No.
Where's the spider?
You're
I wanted to
where's
give
the
you
spider?
nothing.
I
That's
was
what I'm
waiting for a spider.
No, she picked out a spider. So I guess I don't know how I did that. I was so intentional.
You're fine.
That represents just like the light that Christ gives us, and that even in hard situations, especially with how long that situation has been going on, that there is still joy and there's still hope, and that it's gonna be okay. So, and that's it.
And that is our final food tray. Nobody touched anything. It's break time. Yeah, hopefully they can see it. I wonder if I can just tip it a little bit. So hopefully you guys
in the
can
cross.
pause it
Jesus.
and enjoy. Sorry about the cross. Okay. All right. Nobody take apart their tray. Go take your break and come back in 15, which would be 7:38-ish. Might as well just say 7:40 because I like round numbers. Yeah, we're leaving.
Remember, you never deconstruct your own site.
Yeah, which means that you can't stitch yours. We'll take care of yours.
So
You're not the exception to the rule.
Fucking it out. And then I click camera.
No, I need to see that.
All right, so I want to open up a discussion for our last hour and 20 minutes of class. We'll end on a different note. This isn't where we're going to end for tonight. But I do want to invite you guys to share your thoughts on this topic and ask questions, because this isn't an easy one. I want to talk about sexual identity, especially for our kids, because this is a big issue in 2023. It has been for about the last 10 years. I'm telling you what, when I was a teenager, this was not as rampant or as intense as it is now. I remember my generation. There were a couple, of the kids of my generation who were exploring, but nothing like what we're seeing today. There is a very intense agenda out for our kids. So, let's talk about it. I have my opinions and my thoughts on this. I want to hear what your questions are, what your thoughts are.
First of all, how do you counsel a child who has for example, a transgender? How do you counsel a transgender child? Or even I've heard cases where parents are split on the issue where
whether to encourage it or whether to allow them a sex change.
Right. So I've heard of two parents, parents where the mom really wanted her little boy to be a girl, and the
mom wanted her son to be a daughter.
Yeah, and the father was absolutely not. That's and so they actually went to court over it.
Oh my gosh.
And
How old was the child? Under a
I
certain
want to
age?
say 10, around 10.
Did the child have an opinion on the subject?
Well,
I'm just curious, what the full picture was.
what they found was the mom was kind of brainwashing him in a way to be hey, let's do girly things. You're a girl, etc., etc.
You should have been a girl, kind of.
Or not should have been. Mom was saying you are, and was kind of continuing, and but when the boy was hanging out with his dad, everything was normal. He was acting like a boy, so.
Okay.
And then they went to court over it, and as far as I remember, the court ruled they basically took the custody away from the dad because of it, and were pushing for him to get surgery.
That's very
and stuff like
upsetting.
that.
I'm gonna share my strong opinion. Now, I share this as a social worker in a Bible class on a Bible college campus who has worked with a lot of transgender, gay, lesbian, bi kids and loved those kids and care about them and invested in them. Okay, so here's the background, here's the foundation for what my opinion is. It is child abuse to do what she did. There is a very intense war out for our kids right now. And forcing this agenda, the sexual identity of what they're not born to be, is not right, and it's not pleasing to the Lord. So in the last few years, the verse that's come to mind a lot for me is, it would have been better if a weight had been wrapped around their neck and they'd been thrown in the ocean than that they harmed the children. I'm paraphrasing, but you know the verse I'm talking about. So breaks my heart to hear that story, and there is a mounting availability of evidence and testimonies from children. Let's specifically talk about transgender young adults who transitioned or began to transition or took hormones and are now saying, I became more suicidal than I ever could have been or was before. There have been, young adults saying, I was never suicidal, and then I was very suicidal after I transitioned. So some of those testimonies have included things like, the doctor told my parents that if I was not allowed to transition, then I would be at risk for being suicidal or whatever. Basically telling parents that their only choice was to allow their child to transition for their safety. And so parents who never would have allowed those things. Then we have piece of work like the lady you just described who forced an identity on her child. If you aren't allowed to smoke, drink, or rent a car, you should not be, and this was again my opinion as a faith-based clinician, you should not be allowed to transition. If that limit was placed on all children, that they are not allowed to change their gender, hormones, surgery, most of them, I think, and I think there's a lot of research that's going to back me up on this, would grow out of it and revert to their original gender by the time they hit their 20s. Because part of what's going on hormonally, especially for boys, but for girls too, is they're going through changes, and those changes create a lot of confusion for teenagers, and it's a really easy time to be influenced about your identity. But most would grow out of it, and they would revert back to their original gender. So part of why this is not everyone. There are people who are so deceived that they believe to their core that they are this, and they may stay there for a long time, if not forever. But there's a good percentage that are eventually going to admit, either to themselves or their family, that they've damaged their bodies, and there's going to be very little that they can do about it, which is really heartbreaking. So the perspective that I hope everybody in our community, our Jesus-loving community of people, has is compassion and love for those people, because for those who are pursuing that identity, I think there's been a trauma. I think there's been a deception. These are not people who are our enemy. They should be the people who have our compassion and love. And this is how I counseled my parents of trans children, is if you push them away, if you demand changes to their identity, they will walk away from the safest person in their life and towards a community of people who are not always completely safe. Now, some of that community they're like the children, right? They're just confused, they're lost, but some of them are predators. And so the best thing that I think we can do for children struggling with sexual identity is to be loving, not necessarily accepting of the gender change that they're asking or the sexual identity change that they're asking, but to create a safe place for them to land. Because like I'm saying, a lot of them are going to grow out of it. It's our culture right now. And forcing them to look for love and acceptance as a human being somewhere else is going to limit the safe people in their lives. And they're going to be surrounded by people who tell them that the next best thing that they can do is transition or whatever, specifically for transgender. So, hey, look at that. I lectured. I hate lecturing. All right, guys.
About it enough.
I'm very passionate. I've seen a lot of damage, and I've seen a lot of heartbreak in the last couple of years in this area. So, in my opinion, the best thing you can do these days is homeschool. Not to have another strong opinion right after another, but the schools in America right now they're pushing agendas because they're being influenced by the media, by the governments. They're not allowing parents to be the deciders of their children's lives. And parents are the ones who are ultimately responsible for their children and should be the ones making decisions for them, except for like that case. We're not gonna talk about that. Okay. What other questions do you guys have about this?
I don't know how much I can. Well,
Or what cases have you heard about that you need to process?
it's hard because I'm like, there's a specific case that I have in mind, but I don't know how much I can say about it.
Don't use names, don't use
Yeah.
location, say mom and kiddo.
There was a student of mine at one point who was dealing with what he called gender dysphoria.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite interesting because he'd come to school dressed as a girl. He never asked for us to call him by a different name or anything like that. But he directly told me one time, Ms. Clark, I want you to know that, I struggle with something called gender dysphoria. My parents have told me and reminded me that I am a boy and I'm made in God's image. But sometimes I really struggle, because we were doing it, I had them do a journal exercise about something that they were struggling with. And he's like, but sometimes I struggle with feeling like I'm a girl. And that was super interesting because I obviously didn't make myself in the public school system known as a Christian. I mean, it's probably kind of obvious, but also like I didn't tell them like, hey, by the way,
Yeah. But he came in. And
but
talked to
he
you about
came
that.
out and told me that. And then at the same table, there was another student who did transition in the year that I had that student. And actually the school's legal team had to come and back us because one of our teachers slipped by calling them their previous name. And the parents got extremely offended because they legally changed the child's name. So that was like an interesting like dichotomy of having both of those students who were struggling with gender dysphoria
Two different phases.
in two different phases
Mhm.
and two different family dynamics,
Yeah.
family cultures,
Responses.
and I really appreciated the first parent's response too, to be like, hey, I see that you're struggling with this, you're this old, and but at the same time, here's what's true about you. And I just felt like that was such a good approach.
Yes.
How old
Um,
are these children?
Middle school. And so I just felt like that was a really, really good approach. And when he told me that, I was honestly taken back because I was not expecting him to,
Yeah.
when he told me his journal was about gender dysphoria, I was not expecting him to take that approach.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool.
Did he share with you his response to his parents' affirmation of his gender, like how he was processing it, or did he just say like, well, this is what they're saying?
He said, my parents have reminded me that I was born as a boy and that I was made in the image of God. And then he kind of like, and he was like, but sometimes I feel like I'm a girl. And he like seemed like he was frustrated by that fact rather than the fact that his parents were saying that he was a boy.
I think one of the things that if I could change, and this might be kind of what's the word? Hot take. A hot take.
Hot takes
on,
with Brian Morse.
Yeah, hot takes. I think that our cultural interpretation of what masculinity is not always necessary to stick to, if that makes sense. Like, you don't have to like cars. Okay. You don't have to like sports. That does not define manhood. And, if you want to enjoy decoration or something, that's okay. That might just be the gift that God's given you. You might not be the mechanic, maybe God has a different purpose for your life. But I think that that's where some of the confusion starts. Well, if I like to play with dolls and play house, which by the way is a totally normal developmental phase to play house, and at some point some nasty uncle says, well, what do you like playing with dolls for? Are you a girl? Those words have impact. And if you look at that snowball 10 years later, you might see someone who's confused about their gender. So, where we should be defining masculinity or femininity is not the American standard. It's the Word. It's the Lord. It's God. What does He say about manhood? What does He say about womanhood? And I mean, my goodness, if you look at the Bible and read some stories, I mean, you guys are in Bible college, we've got some violent women. Okay? Okay? We got some warriors, okay? We got Deborah, okay? She was a leader in a time when there wasn't another option. Sometimes women and men don't fit into whatever standard. Sometimes we fit into the standard of something else. I mean, we should hopefully be a godly standard. But I think that's where the confusion starts.
So a friend of mine about 6 years ago, her boys were in a church school, so a Christian school. He was about 5 years old, and it comes time to pick a prize from the prize box because he had done something good or whatever it was. And he comes and he picks one day he picks the ring and like a jewelry ring, and another day he picks a flower or something.
Yeah.
And one of the teachers comes to the parents and I'm really concerned because he's acting like a girl. And the mom's like, just because he's not a rolling in the mud kind of boy. He likes keeping his clothes clean, and he wears bow ties and button down shirts.
Bless his heart, he's adorable.
So cute.
We're not going to start
Yeah.
encouraging that, maybe you were a girl. So
That
was
there
a
have been
Christian
some
school
gardeners
situation.
in our Bible,
Right, that was a Christian school situation. That was a parent who had a good handle on it.
Yeah.
But if a young child came to you like that, my teachers are saying maybe I'm a girl, how would you?
It depends on how much liberty I have.
Right.
Right now, I can speak pretty freely, but if we're dealing with my clients in my office, I am limited on what I can say, which is one of the sucky things about being a therapist and a Christian.
Yeah.
I'm limited. So, for instance, I have a new client who specifically asked for a faith-based therapist, and they were very specific. And so I'm super excited about that because now I have a specific client that I know I can speak freely about the truth of God's word and identity and all of that, and I'm really excited to work with this kid. I also have clients who specifically ask me not to approach the therapeutic setting with their kid from a biblical perspective. And so I think I've talked about this before. There is a balance to being a clinician and a Christian, but at the end of the day, who am I accountable to? I would rather go to jail in this world and have the Lord pleased with me at the end. That being said, I tread very carefully. So if a kid said something to me like, my teacher says I'm a girl, it's between me, the Lord, and this kid, but I probably would gently prod them towards the truth. Be like, well, what parts do girls have? That would be a good question. What parts do boys have? Okay. Why do you think your teacher said that? Be curious. Get them to process it. Maybe they picked the pink pencil. Well, boys can like pink. Maybe your teacher doesn't know that. No? Sometimes making them a little bit funny. And it works. But, I want, when I am before the Lord on Judgment Day, I do want Him to be pleased with the direction that I led my clients. I will never tell a client, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Oh, you want to be a girl? That's fine. When they are obviously a boy. Can't do it. So, welcome to a very complicated world of therapy in children. It is tricky and ethically questionable at times, but I think you can do a good job of doing what's right before the Lord and whatever board you're attached to, in my case social work, without doing damage. But I'm not gonna like, I might walk the line on one side, but I'm not walking the line on the other side, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I would normalize things that other people might not. For instance, I have someone that I know that if somebody had told him when he was a kid that it was okay to enjoy fashion and be a boy, I wonder how that would have changed things.
Yeah, same.
Man likes fashion, you know, and that's okay. But I don't think it was normalized as it should have been, and so there's some confusion now.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So, what about? I think I already know the answer to this, but I'm just curious to hear your thoughts, I guess. If you had a Christian client, probably older a little bit.
14.
Sure.
Okay. You're trying to give it an age.
And I guess specifically is a boy and they want to wear dresses and things that are very standardly, maybe wear makeup and do their nails and stuff like that. But they're not identifying as a girl. They don't, they're, I'm a man, but men can wear dresses. How would you, if they're a Christian client, do you persuade them in a different direction, or do you see that as being?
I would
biblically
not
okay?
shame them.
That's
Okay. Here's one
good.
takeaway I'd like you to have. Shame is not of Jesus.
stupid.
Okay? Guilt leading to repentance is. So am I going to shame a little boy? Absolutely not. That is only going to create a need for darkness and a need for hiding. I might have a 14-year-old, I'd probably have an open discussion with him about it. I'd be curious, ask him what he thinks it means to be a man, you know, talk about historical fashion, you know, take a few different perspectives. I would probably say, oh yeah, well, in this culture it is normal for, you know, men to wear longer clothing that what looks like dresses to us, but, you know, talk about what manhood meant there and talk about manhood means here. Not like partially from a cultural, but tainted with the word and what is godly. So what's the Bible, you know, to ask them, what do you think the Bible says about being a man? And I wouldn't be like, stop wearing dresses. Stop painting your nails. That is awful. You no good scumbag. None of that is going to be helpful for that kid. It's going to shame him. It's gonna make him feel all sorts of things that don't lead to a safe connection with an adult. But I think that I would ask him questions like, I wonder what you think other people would say about you wearing nail polish, and just be curious. Just get him to talk about it, get him to process it out. And you know, like, nail polish is one of the ones, like, are we talking about a dad whose daughter lets him paint his fingernails? Like, I really don't have an issue with that. And I know we've got the goth teens who like to wear black, and I'm kind of like, whatever, you know. It's not the worst thing. It's not like they're getting a satanic tattoo, you know. Like, it's not permanent. But then there's that kind of gray, even more gray area, like a 14-year-old who just wants to wear nail polish because. And I think I would stay curious, get them to process it, encourage them to look at it from godly perspective. And sometimes it has to go back to, well, what message do you think you're sending out to other people? And get them to think about it from that perspective. Because a lot of times, if you can get them to think about it from there instead of shame, now they're using their prefrontal cortex, and they might say, well, you might think I'm gay, you know, or something like that. And they're like, well, I don't really want people to think I'm gay, because I'm not gay, I like girls, you know. And they can talk themselves out of it. They can talk themselves out of it. That's going to be a lot more effective long term than you telling them what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
I have a question. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Karen. You're good.
Bring it on, Karen.
You're fine.
So the reason I actually like stepped into counseling was because I have a cousin who deals with this kind of thing, but it's not like on the dressing side, although she has kind of changed in that way. But I grew up with her since 4th grade, and we lived near each other since then, and I kind of watched her as she's, come into this different view on things. But I thought it was interesting. So she made friends with girls, obviously, because she's a girl, and like best friends kind of thing. But then after like a long period of time, decided she had like a sexual attraction to them. And I was curious as to what you do about that. It may not be like I'm gonna like change over to the other gender, but I like
it's not trans, it's a same-sex attraction.
The sexual orientation.
Yeah,
So
I think that is one of the ploys of the enemy. I'm just talking big picture, but if this is just another big picture thing that made me think of. But if you look at a lot of the different things that are going on in our culture right now, you might notice a trend towards things that don't procreate children.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Transgender. Most of the time, that means you're not going to have kids. You're cutting off important parts. You're trying to sew on other ones, messing with hormones. There's a lot going on there that is messy and not going to tend towards having kids. Same-sex attraction, again, you're not having kids unless you have, as God made it, one of each. And then even abortion. Another way where I feel very strongly that this is the enemy's plan for our world. He wants fewer people to get into the kingdom of God. So fewer people existing is a great place to start.
Wow. That's a really good point.
How
I
hard
hadn't
is it
thought
to
about
get
it.
pregnant if you are a woman trying to get implanted compared to just doing it as the Lord, like marrying a man and doing it as he intended? There's still fewer children. So there's that. For same-sex attraction, I am by no means an expert in this area. But I think in a godly counseling session, it would go back to who you are in Christ. The enemy does not want anything that's good for you. I cannot stress that enough. If you don't already know that, he's very much out to steal and destroy and kill. So I would encourage that client to, if they are God believing, to take a deep dive onto who God says they are in the Bible. I think that showering your soul in the Word is a great place to start in worship. The more time that you spend in the world, the more saturated you are in things of the world. And so it's more easy to get swept up in their perspective of your identity. So returning to what the Bible says, what Jesus says, what Christ says, surrounding yourself people who affirm your identity, that hold you accountable, would be other things that'd be encouraging. Because where does the enemy thrive? In
The dark.
So I'd be encouraging that client to seek out healthy accountability, not shaming accountability, healthy accountability. And I've had talks with people who had no accountability ever and no support. I've had talks with people who struggled and then found that accountability and support and were able to move through it and past it. I've seen the spectrum, and I've seen quite a few people who did not fight back against the programming that led them to choose a different lifestyle than what the Lord intended for them. Does that answer your question? So, I think you can't keep it hidden, and you have to have accountability. Those are 2 big points, I would say. And also, like I said, looking at who you are in Christ and saturating yourself in worship, prayer, fasting, and the Bible. It's like, think about how Jesus responded when he was in the desert, right? Every single time that he was tempted by Satan, he responded with the word. You can't fight back against whatever purpose the enemy is trying to force on you if you don't have the word in you. So, I'm preaching to me as much as I am to you guys. If you want to be in this field and you want to work with sexual abuse children, or if you want to work with kids dealing with sexual identity dysphoria, whatever it is, you are entering a spiritual battle right now. I cannot stress this enough. It is a spiritual battle in our world right now, and the fight is for our children. So if you even look at what's happening, the destruction of motherhood, forcing moms to be where? Not at home, but in the workplace. And I'm a professional, okay? Like, I'm not saying that women can't work. I'm kind of like, I struggle sometimes between being like, I want to be a feminist, but that's not what I mean when I say feminist. Exactly. Right? Like, I can do it. Like, the Lord made me for great purposes. But when I have kids, those children will be my priority. I will be their protector, because that is one of the jobs the Lord has given me. Okay, so just fulfill your purpose, whatever it is. But the destruction of motherhood and the destruction of fatherhood, you can see it in our culture. How do wives talk about their husbands on social media?
Oh.
There is a huge spiritual battle. And at the end, when you destroy motherhood and you destroy fatherhood, what do you have? Broken families and vulnerable children. And what happens to vulnerable children? Predators. It's not good. So, anyway, more questions about sexual identity. Yeah, right?
Preach, Mariah.
I feel very strongly about this, as you can tell. There's a lot of sad things happening in our world right now.
I think in the same vein, kind of to like follow the question, like strand.
I thought your choice of words was interesting.
It's okay, you can let me be creative. The string of thought, I guess. So my question is like basically it's very similar to her question, except that particular situation that I'm thinking of, the conversations that I have had with this individual is like repeatedly like, this is your identity in Christ, this is who you are in Christ, this is who you are, this is who you are, this is who you are. Yeah. And he is always like, yeah, totally, I'm fully confident that that is who I am, and I still feel like I'm bi. He's like, he's actually in a relationship with a girl right now, and feels like he should be in a relationship with, and that's not the first person that I've had that exact same conversation with. Like, that is a repeated question my entire, like, since I've been in middle school, literally. My best friend in middle school was gay. And so, like, this is a community that I feel like the Lord has always placed in my path for me to engage with and to encourage. Yeah. And I don't really know why, but and you know, I've seen so much growth on a lot of them. But for this particular one, I'm kind of stumped, because I'm like, okay, he's confident in his identity in Christ, and his current struggle is the fact that he feels like he wants a family, but he knows the only biblical way to have a family is if he has it with a woman. So he wants to be in a relationship with a girl, but he doesn't also feel like he's attracted to her. Or any female.
That's like the future that I see spread out behind that is like really scary. If I were his therapist, and this is really maybe not an appropriate question for you to be asking him, because I think that the appropriate person to be having this discussion with him would probably be an older mentor.
Oh, definitely.
But as a therapist, if I had a client who was struggling with being gay, lesbian, or bi, most of the time I'm going to ask if they're looking at porn. Because The thing about porn is that it will not satisfy you to the same level the next time that you look at it. You will always need, I should be going the other way, you will always need deeper and darker porn to get the high in your brain that you got the first time. So what might start with soft porn is going to lead to maybe more violent porn or different porn. Same sex would be one of them. And eventually, if you look at enough porn, you're going to be going into some really bad areas, and it's going to start going to porn with children. I don't want to get graphic, but you understand. And that's the world we live in, and that's why even like the fashion industry kind of scares me, because what do the women in fashion industry look like? They look like 13-year-old boys. Very flat, no shape, smooth faces. It is really horrifying and scary to me to think about who decided in the fashion industry that that was the height of beauty and what they're probably into. So there's another hot take. Man, we're just blown.
Wow.
So
That's a really good point.
So with the person you're talking about, I would be curious if he's ever in his life, not necessarily today, but at some point, had a porn addiction. Because porn destroys a lot of your ability to connect with other people.
This is another hot take.
Oh, that was not a hot take. That's just brain science.
No.
Yeah.
My question.
Oh, yeah.
For you. Maybe this is too personal. I don't know.
Oh, you have another question?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I have another question.
As long as we're not going to get kicked off YouTube, I think you can ask it.
No.
Is everyone cool for going a little deeper into?
What's the wisdom behind being in a relationship with someone who has previously had it? Not that I am, by the way, in a relationship with someone who has previously had a porn addiction.
This is a great question.
Okay,
so
good. I
glad
wasn't sure
you
if it
asked.
was too. Because I understand.
Yeah.
And like my boundary is clear about where that's at, but also kind of like, okay, I have a lot of compassion for that.
So I can actually speak to this for several reasons, and I'm perfectly comfortable sharing about them. First, my mother is a sexual addiction counselor and a social worker, and we shop talk a lot. So this may not be my specialty, but I know enough about it to speak to it. Because she prepared me on how to deal with the dating world. So
she should come in and do a lecture.
She actually offered.
That's actually not a horror. I'm kind of serious about that, actually.
If she ever wanted to take the time to teach a sexual addiction class, you would not find anyone better to talk to you guys about it. She's top notch. She's very wise. Anyway, so I know that we're a little off topic from counseling children, but it's all connected. So we're going to allow it.
Okay.
In the dating world, you are going to find a very high number. I'm speaking we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 women in here, 6 if you include me. So I'm going to speak from the female perspective. But there's also, if you look at it from the other perspective, women also struggle with porn. So guys should be asking the same questions. So the guys online, I think we have one. You can ask in a dating relationship, you should be asking about this always. There are 3 questions that I ask every guy that I ever go on a date with, assuming that we're gonna keep dating. Now I think the last guy I went on a date with, I didn't have to because we didn't keep going out. But if we're gonna keep going out, I'm gonna ask you these questions, and then I'll tell you why after, because that's I think what you were asking before, the wisdom behind. So I'm gonna ask about porn, masturbation, and sex. And in my own retarded joke, I call it the Holy Trinity of sex. And the reason why I will always ask is because those 3 things are there are so many reasons. Like, where do I start on the reasons? There are enough reasons, like, you could write several books on it. Because it affects intimacy, affects connection, it affects basically everything in your romantic life with that person. It is not just a minor issue that you can brush off and ignore. It is a very serious deal when it comes to that relationship. So, in your brain, when you look at porn or you masturbate and connect with nobody, there's nobody on the other end of that. You're not connecting with the spouse. Hopefully, spouse. That's the goal. That's the biblical goal. I'm going to try and say this correctly. Your neurons are firing and the connectors are getting fried, basically. They're not able to shoot off as healthily as they should. And over time, you are not able to connect with other people at all, emotionally.
So the neural pathway exists, but it's a connection between nothing,
it's like fried,
rather than your
Yeah.
ability. And because
Yes.
that one is so strong, then you lose your ability to connect with other people.
Because
And-
it just pulls up.
Yeah. And logic is one of the things that start to go out the window when you have a porn addiction. So I will always ask a guy those 3 questions. And if his answer is, well, I did look at porn, but I stopped 3 weeks ago, that's not going to cut it for me. Everyone's different. But the full timeline on healing from porn or sex or masturbation addiction is 5 years. 3 to 5 years if we're really being accurate. But I like to err on the side of full healing. So 5 years. It takes 5 years after you've stopped all of that for your brain to rebuild all of the pathways, learn how to connect with other human beings, new neural pathways, all of that. So after 1 year, I'm trying to remember the timeline, I think it's 1 year, you start to have new new neural pathways. After like 2 or 3 years, then you start to connecting emotionally, but obviously it takes time for those to be solid. Just like any addiction, if you slip up and look, you're not using your new neural pathways, you're reigniting the old gross ones that you don't really want in your brain. So it's like going back, it's like you're a heroin addict and you went back to heroin, kind of starting over from scratch in some ways. Now, do you have all the skills and resources set up that you spent the last couple of years? Yes, you do. We are very much on a side issue, but I do actually feel very strongly about this one as well. However, much I'm able to share about it.
Well, and I'll circle it back to children that way.
Thank
You
you.
can feel like you have an excuse.
It's all about the kids.
A lot of the people that I've talked to who are struggling with same-sex addiction, or not same-sex attraction, or gender identity issues,
Sexual abuse?
have confessed sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And there
Yep.
seems to be a correlation too between sexual addiction and sexual
Yep.
abuse.
Yes, I would say there is also that, for sure.
But not always.
Not always. No, but
Right. It shouldn't
it-
just be assumed.
it's not assumed, but there are percentages, and they're higher than most things. Another reason that you might see some gender dysphoria or attraction dysphoria, whatever you want to call it, that's not the technical term, but we'll use it, could be that, say for instance, I'm going to use a specific example to describe this because that's easier than me being hypothetical. I had a client who was 17, and the mother of this female client was a domineering, kind of awful person. Dad was the fun one and the kind one and the accommodating one. And so what happened to this client over several years is she got indoctrinated online. She hated being a girl. And so one of the things that I really concluded after working with this kid was that she did not want to be a woman because of the mother that she had. So sometimes it's not sexual abuse, sometimes your image of femininity, or for a guy, your image of manhood is not appealing. And so you don't have a better example. And so part of that deception is, well, I must not be a woman because that sucks and I don't want to be anything like that.
Yeah.
There are multiple ways that the enemy can deceive you. And he is trying very hard. Accountability. Going back to the word in scripture. And what was the other one I said? Whatever I said earlier.
Prayer and fasting.
Prayer and fasting. Yes, thank you. And worship. Don't forget worship. Worship is where our spirit is connecting with the Spirit of God. This is a fun one. I promise you guys we're not going to end here. There is hope in Jesus. Just because of the enemy's plans does not mean that we have to give in to them. Does not mean that we have to live them out. I am fighting very hard in any way I can for my clients, for my nieces and nephews, for my friends to fill the gap in between, right? That's that phrase. Yes, ma'am.
So, I was talking to this older man who took over a church because the pastor was sexually abusing his adopted daughter. And they got rid of him, they separated them.
Yeah.
But after like a couple years, the reason they found out about it was because the daughter was upset that her adopted father was not still using her. And I'm just kind of curious as to why she would feel that way.
Trauma bonding. More, I would phrase that under more like Stockholm syndrome.
Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking about.
It's not exactly, but it's basic. I would say basically that her blueprint for love and affection is totally corrupted.
Right.
And so I would guess that started pretty early.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was really young.
Yeah.
And so as she got older, she was like, why aren't you still doing this?
Yeah.
So.
And here's one. Oh man, I'm so glad I get to pass this one on for you guys. When I was here, my professor said this to me, and it stuck with me, and it helps me to understand everything that's going on with genders and sexual attraction and identity today. Our body is a button. All you have to do is push it. Okay? It is just as simple as that. Not everybody should be pushing your button. It's just that simple. Your spouse should be pushing your button. But our body is a button. And so it doesn't matter if you're raped. It doesn't matter if it's a parent. It doesn't matter if it's same sex. If they push your button, you feel something. And so for the girls who, a girl kissed them when they were 12. They're like, maybe I'm gay because I felt something. No, honey, you're just got a button and they found it.
That's good.
Yes. I think about that one.
Let's bring in all the fire.
We found this topic that I am very upset about. Because, and again, I want to bring this back one more time. If the church has made a mistake, it is the shaming of people who are, I'm really trying to word this very carefully. Sometimes, instead of helping, we've shamed.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, instead of providing counseling, we've just rejected people. It's okay, like when people get rejected from the body of believers, who's going to accept them, offer them warmth, friendship? It's going to be the community that they were being shamed for being attracted to. So then they get pushed into it. I think that, I'm not saying let's accept that they're attracted to women. Let's accept that they want to be a boy.
Right.
Let's just, we'll just throw a smile on it and it's no big deal. It is a big deal. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the people who are going to help that person return to safety are the people that you're pushing them away from. So just think about the inner child who was wounded. Okay, that woman who's struggling with same-sex attraction, maybe she was abused. Maybe she was abused by a woman. Okay, that's not the child's fault. Now she's dealing with all the damage from the sexual abuse. Maybe she's dealing from an early exposure to porn. That's trauma for a child's brain. Children should not be exposed to sexual activity or porn or anything like that because it is traumatic for them. I am bringing the fire. I'm all mad today. Anyway, okay, I got my train went that way.
So then, like, so I know someone who fits into that category. So for him, like, how would that affect later life?
A boy being abused.
Being exposed to porn.
Early,
yeah.
It's traumatic.
Like 5.
Oh, poor baby. Is he still 5? Or adult?
He's a teenager now.
Oh, teenager. Okay. Still looking at porn?
I mean, I'm not sure about now. I know up until at least 2 years ago.
Let me put it this way. If a 5-year-old witnesses a murder at age 5 and then is allowed 10 years to heal from it, that's kind of different than a 5-year-old witnessing a murder and then witnessing a murder and then witnessing a murder until they're 12. Repeated trauma is different in terms of healing than short-term trauma. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't heal from it, but there's a lot more compacted there. It's not a single event. And a single event is still like something to be reckoned with, right? Like if a 5-year-old was sexually abused at 5 and then never again, that's still intense trauma. I'm not negating it. I'm just saying you have to take into consideration whether you're dealing with repeated or shorter abuse, or let's say being exposed to porn. So for that teenager, I would want to connect him with really healthy adults, probably men, because I think that most of the time we're meant to be mentored by our older counterparts. So when I was in college here, I got a mentor. I was connected with a woman who was about 12 years older than me, and I went and met with her every week for like 8 months because I just wanted to be mentored by somebody. I just wanted somebody to be pouring into me because I wanted to be pouring into other people at some point. And that wasn't therapy. It was just talking about being a woman, talking about womanhood and motherhood and things that I hadn't experienced yet, like love, you know? So, does that answer your question? I'm getting lost in my own train of thought. So accountability and mentorship, and if this is a teenager who's in the church and pursuing Jesus, I would be connecting them with Bible study materials that talk about purity. Not just when I say purity, I don't want you to hear what I heard when I was 15 and heard purity. I have another hot take, but this is just, we're going wildly off track here. But here's one more hot take. I stopped wearing my purity ring, and this is just me, okay? This is just me. Do what you want. I stopped wearing my purity ring about age 21 because I realized that the reason I was wearing my purity ring was because I was going to be pure for my husband. And that's fine, but I wanted my motivation for being pure to be pure to the Lord. For the Lord, to honor Him, and to be right before Him. And so when I realized my motivation was off, I was like, I'm going to follow the Lord no matter what, but I want my motivation to be because I want to please Him, because I love Jesus and grateful for what He's done in my life, rather than trying to earn some reward. So, just one more thing. I'm sorry, I'm really off topic tonight, but let's just say it was Holy Spirit come in and being like, you want to talk about this. So, okay, any other questions about sexual identity? Reeling it back. And children.
It's all related.
It's
though.
all related. The children that are struggling with sexual identity age 5, if they don't get help, here are the issues they're going to be dealing with into adulthood.
Mhm.
That's the connection.
Yeah, really though.
Man, there are a lot of things that they're dealing with these days. Self-harm. I've really seen some things in the area of self-harm.
Yeah.
Really heartbreaking things. And working in residential with teens, that was one of the hard things that we dealt with.
Yeah.
The kids would break nail polish bottles. They would break anything glass. We had to take away everything that they could use to scratch themselves because of how badly they were trying to get that hit in their brain from the chemicals that they would get when they self-harmed.
Yeah. I went to 3 minor funerals this year, and they were all suicide.
Okay, just proving my point. What is the enemy's plan for our world? He wants the kids. He will drive them to suicide. He will take them in the womb. He will destroy their identity before the Father. If anybody has room in their developmental stages paper, feel free to add your thoughts on sexual identity if you haven't already. Okay. All right, I promised we weren't going to end on a heavy note. We're going to do a little bit of processing before we go because that's why I'm a therapist. Yes, ma'am.
I did want to ask. We've been talking a lot about self-care. I wanted to ask, how do you balance self-care with like not going too far and being selfish?
That's a great question. I'm trying to think. There are, I think you need the Holy Spirit for this distinction. There are moments when I know what I need desperately, and it's usually I've been around people all day, I need to go spend some time alone, I need to feed my soul. And there are times when the Lord is asking me to sow into my family and to serve them. And that's actually one of the corrections I've received from the Holy Spirit recently, is being more mindful to not neglect the service that I am bringing to my family. I'm not a slave, but I am here for a purpose. And one of the purposes of my life right now in this season is to serve my family and to be there for them and to make sure they're functioning. Now, every season's a little different right now. This might be a season where you're just in school and you're just taking care of yourself, and that's fine. So as far as like going too far, I think you need the Lord like to know like where the line is, because should you be making sure that your oxygen mask is on before you're helping other people? Absolutely. You cannot help other people if you are a massive train wreck yourself. You're not gonna. So like in counseling, like that was one of the reasons I left my last job at the residential program, because I could no longer offer a place for their emotions to fall in therapy. I was zoning out. I was retracting into my own heart. I was very deaf-eared to their emotions. And I knew that. It was not like a secret. It was just like, I'm burnt out. It's time to go. I can't help them anymore. So the best thing for those clients at that point was for me to hit the road and go take care of myself, which I did. And thank the Lord, I'm feeling a lot better. And the job I have currently has allowed me to manage my time, to be more available to my family. So as far as like going too far, I think most of us have an idea of what reasonable self-care is: taking a shower, drinking water, spending time in the Word. And I think that you'll feel the nudging of the Holy Spirit when it's time to put down what you're doing and go do something that He's calling you to. You'll feel that tug. And if you're not feeling it, saturate yourself in the Word and fasting and worship, and you will be more in tune with the Lord. You know, it's like if you knock, He will answer. There's a promise there for us. We don't have to worry about whether or not He's going to lead us. If you love the Lord and you're following Him and pursuing Him, it's there. And if you can't hear Him, the room is probably too loud, so turn everything down. Just leaving you guys with some good ones. I didn't know I had so much in me. Okay. So, I have this really cute Therapets. Have I showed you guys this? So glad. Let's go. Okay, so you can look through this, but if you want to take one with you, I got the calendar, and you can actually take a couple with you. But I would like you guys to think about your journey through this class, because that's why we're here, and to pick something that speaks to you and keep it. You can also just look through these, but you can't help. Let's go one way, and then we'll circle the room. Maybe like split the deck with each other.
That's cool.
Yes. Some of these back cards are not. Oh. Maybe they're back here. Yep, there we go. Don't bother with those because they're not. So, split the deck. They're so cute. Give me one to show the camera. This one says, let's just deal with today. You can deal with tomorrow, and it's adorable. It's very cute. So all of them are like this, and this is one of the ways that I have given my teens or my kids a chance to process what they are needing to hear, what, message they're needing to receive. And sometimes that's kind of like inner child work. Like, what do you need to hear today? Kind of like with Santray, what does your person need today? Mm-hmm. Kind of like a way to take a step back and like therapize yourself.
I'm totally gonna get these.
Oh, they're so
These
cute.
are amazing.
But if you want to take one, you can take some of the calendar ones. I've actually thought about cutting off the calendar bar and then just laminating them so I can keep them forever.
This little dinosaur with a sweater and a scarf. Let's sit down and drink some tea, and then we'll figure this out.
There we go.
Oh my goodness, drinking tea is so important.
I love tea. It's my favorite.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
I had not a client, but someone I was working with at the residential program, and I'm trying to remember exactly. It was one of these cards that I showed her, and she was like, "This." And it was something like, "You're not trash. You're a beautiful dumpster fairy," or something. It was something adorable. Did you see it? Yeah.
So cute.
And I don't think I've seen any in here that were questionable. It's like some of them were like a little bit fake sounding, but that's about as bad as it gets.
I love these. They're so cute. Here, I take a picture of them. They're just so cute. I've got to.
Yeah, feel free to take pictures. You can do that. Anyone want to share what they picked? Is that too personal?
No, I'm gonna share.
You can pick the paper ones.
Oh, okay.
These are good. This one I picked
Okay,
is
hold them around the room.
the
I don't know
little
which direction you want to go.
I don't know.
cat in front of the mirror.
Just go this way.
As tempting as it may be, you can't hate yourself into help.
Yes,
That
that's
is
a
really
good
good.
one.
That's
Are these
really
your
good.
glasses, Kara?
Oh, I thought it was right over there.
We're like, I
Do
don't know,
y'all
I can't
remember
see.
the quote from Anne of Green Gables?
3.
She was pretty, I think it was like when he was just picking her up from the train station or something.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like, he says something about
Yes, he
she
does.
talks so much, and she's like, If only you knew all the things I wanted to say and didn't.
And didn't.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
time over talking, I say that to my mom. I'm like,
Yes.
if only you knew all.
You think this is bad?
Oh, exactly.
Wait till you hear my inner thoughts.
Yes.
Just keep
Have you
circling
s-
it the other way.
Have you seen the TikTok that is if my intrusive thoughts could be heard out loud?
No, but I relate. I think everybody has a couple intrusive thoughts. That's my theory.
First of all, the girl who does it is hilarious. Because like hers are like, what would happen if I all of a sudden just decided to turn off the side of this road and run over that small animal or something like.
But like, you are not like
It sounds horrible.
you're not your intrusive thoughts. I just want to say that.
It sounds horrible, but it was
sometimes I'm
also
like,
so.
Right? Sometimes the weirdest things cross through your mind. It's like, I wonder what would happen if I just like slid over a little bit and like bumped that semi truck that we're going 65 miles an hour with down the highway. It's just the weirdest. I'm like, where did that come from?
Just stay in your
And I
prefrontal
always-
cortex, but I'm
I
not going
always
to do
think
that.
of those. I always think of that. Like the birds of thought may fly through your head. It's you know, but you can control whether they nest there or not.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That should be on one of these.
Yes.
I found one similar to what you were talking about. Stop calling yourself garbage. You're blueberry fairy princess. You are amazing.
Yes, that's my favorite one.
Fairy princess.
Stop calling yourself garbage.
Oh, this one's beautiful. Is this
These are
a?
amazing. Therapists.
Yes.
What's the?
I can see the ones you're done with.
Amazon.
Okay, here you go, ladies.
Oh, it's it looks like a phoenix.
Yes, I like the Phoenix.
Okay. And you can't go wrong with a German Shepherd telling you it's all going to work out fine.
I love the dog ones.
That one's good.
So many of these, it's like we should just like put Bible verses underneath them because there's so many. It's like
And
I know exactly where they come from.
This is the Jesus-less version of affirmations.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of affirmations we can get from the Word.
But they're affirming aspects of reality.
Yes.
And God established reality.
Yes.
And so as long as it's establishing reality, it doesn't
Yes.
or affirming it doesn't matter, you know?
The enemy is only going to tear us down.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that's returning us in a biblical mindset to our identity in Christ, I'm good. I'm good. And then sometimes, things like anxiety and depression make life really hard.
So cute.
Oh, sorry.
You're
I
good.
thought it had been passed forward.
I'm just gonna keep circling them until everyone gets a
We're going
chance.
this direction.
I don't know. I think it's gone both directions.
Oh, okay, I like this one.
But yeah, I don't regret buying the desk calendar.
No.
They're
this
so
is
cute.
great.
I've also done this like in a group setting where I've just like with the sand tray, where I had you guys pick something for each other. I've had affirmation cards picked for like not this specific set, but I've done it with another set where I had a parent choose one for a kid and a kid choose one for a parent. That's super cute to see a little 9-year-old boy tell mom that she's beautiful.
Oh.
That was precious. Also teaching.
Have you seen those like little shorts where the videos where the boy is doing like the 6-year-old boy is doing his mom's makeup? He's like, "You're gorgeous." Oh, there was
Yeah.
a one where like she's closing her eyes and he does her whole makeup, but he didn't put anything on. He had a
Yes.
dry brush the whole time, and
Yes.
he's like, "You're beautiful just the way you are." So cute.
Yes, little boys are the sweetest.
They really are. Like, I love little boys. Like, I grew up with only sisters and only females ever, really. All my cousins
that
are
way.
females. Everyone.
Okay, then this way.
But little boys are so cute.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna end on a happy note.
That's so cute.
We're not ending on a. depressing the enemy is after our children, though.
These are so good.
Do you have a favorite, Eliana?
Progress is progress no matter how small.
That's good.
Trying your best is all that matters. The rest will fall into place.
This is it, in case you guys want to see the Amazon link.
I just pulled
There are
it up.
pets 64 emotional support animal cards. Affirmations, self-esteem, help with anxiety, worry, stress, and bands of you can do all things.
I feel like you deserve a refund on your calendar because this one doesn't have an animal on it.
Maybe it was the front cover.
February
Never
18th
mind.
or 19th.
It wasn't the the calendar.
These are so cute.
I found a notepad of 365 Bible verses at Marshall's the other day. And I was like, this is pretty amazing. Maybe I'll get this. And then there was another one later that I found that was open. And I started flipping through it, and there was not a single Bible verse. They were nice quotes, but I'm like, somebody mislabeled this one.
No kidding. That's funny. I want to make sure everyone has a chance to look at the paper ones because you obviously can keep those. So if you haven't yet,
They're so adorable. Oh my soul. I love that.
when I saw them the first time, I was like, me and my play therapy hard love this.
I love it. That's amazing. Have you done the story cards?
What do you mean by story cards? Like which one? They're like you could be referring to several things.
Like the brand, the story card, like,
I don't think I've seen a brand called Story Card. What are they?
I'll have to show you. They are so cool. They all have random images on them of just tons of different things. But you can use them as so many different types of prompts for, like, you know, processing or whatever. And see if I can find them.
I think Eliana's the only one who hasn't looked at it.
Okay, there was two halves of the paper ones. You said we could take one more.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Are you done with those?
Thank you. Story card.
Guys, I truly enjoy this class. You all are fun to hang out with.
We enjoyed this class too.
No,
Ryan.
guys, not expect
Thank you
reciprocation.
so much.
There's none of that. But, binder, 4 p.m., good. And you, whenever, just because it's in person. And then for you guys, midnight, Friday, 11:59, whatever. Yeah, that's really it. You can finish, if you want to look at the paper again, feel free. The paper, there are pets. If you are ready to go, God be with you. Bless you all. Go protect the children. I'm not kidding.
That's my job.
I will. Stand in the gap and be compassionate, empathetic, listen, and love them.
Your drink next time.
Yes.
There's your core.
Thank you.